It explains how he could have compared those who hold this view to people who believe that the Earth is flat and to people who believe that the moon landing was staged in a movie set in Nevada. It may also explain how he could miss the irony of likening deniers to those who don't believe in space travel. One of those deniers is Michael Griffin, the head of NASA. Another is Habibullah Abdusamatov. He heads research on the Russian half of the International Space Station. A third is Egil Friis Christensen, the head of the Danish National Space Agency. A fourth is Freeman Dyson, one of the best-known scientists on Earth. To further spaceflight, he developed nuclear pulse propulsion for the Orion project. This bubble, I believe, also explains the fervor of belief by Al Gore and others, and their ability, the freedom they feel to act with impunity. The ability to attack anyone regardless of his credentials. Last year, when Michael Griffin, the head of NASA, told National Public Radio that he believes that global warming isn't a problem worth wrestling with, well, he was attacked. You'd think that Griffin was entitled to express his viewpoint. He holds a PhD in aerospace engineering. He holds 5 master's degrees. He's a member of the National Academy of Engineering and the International Academy of Astronautics. He was unanimously confirmed to head NASA by the United States Senate. He oversees the world's single biggest climate research budget, $1.1 billion a year. Yet, no sooner did he express his opinion than he was called an idiot. He was said to be in denial. He was called a fool, and he was called surprisingly naive. He was called either totally clueless or a deep anti-global warming ideologue. And those who berated him included his own employees. That went on for about 2 days, and Griffin then apologized. And the public hasn't heard from him again on the subject. The public also hasn't heard from hundreds of others who don't want to subject themselves to the type of abuse that Griffin faced. I was at a literary function in Toronto last year and happened to sit next to a global warming denier who's one of Canada's most prominent climate scientists. I asked him over dinner why he had decided to speak up. He paused for a moment and he said, "I was diagnosed with testicular cancer." He decided he didn't want to die a coward, and so he went public. And he described the pressures that confront an academic when they do go public. He became a pariah. His colleagues stopped talking when he entered a room. He was faced with loss of grants for his projects, but not only was he faced with that, so was his entire department, which meant he was threatening the careers of his colleagues. He's now cured of cancer, and he says he regrets that he went public. But only part of him regrets it. I think he's also proud that he's gone public. And I think he's going to have an increasing amount of company among other scientists. My sense is that scientists are increasingly speaking up. And not only are they speaking up, but I feel that they're increasingly becoming firmer in their views. Some, like Claude Allègre, who was perhaps France's best-known scientist, actually reversed their position. At the time of Rio, he was an ardent believer that CO2 represented a mortal danger. He was an organizer. His name was on a petition that with other scientists that decried what man was doing to the planet. But after seeing the decades of science that has come out of the United Nations, he's become convinced that there is no credible scientific case for global warming. The list of so-called deniers now includes the president of the World Federation of Science, who is also Italy's best-known scientist. It includes one of Britain's best-known scientists and one of Germany's best-known scientists. It includes scientists from the world's top research bodies, bodies like the Pasteur Institute and the European Space Agency and CERN, which is the European Organization for Nuclear Research. It's a 50-year-old institution that has 20 country members and services half of the world's particle physicists. It includes top climate scientists, legends in the field such as William Gray, who is considered by many the world's foremost authority on the prediction of hurricanes, and Reed Bryson, who's been called the father of scientific climatology and who is the world's most cited climatologist. At some point, possibly quite soon, if climate science doesn't demonstrate a breakthrough capable of impressing scientists, this whole big lie may come crashing down. So, thank you.
Thank you, Lawrence. We're going to have questions. I hope this has whetted your appetite to read this book. It's very readable. It's got a lot of stuff in it. I mean, I know most of the people you discuss or have seen most of them. We've had many of them here as Cooler Heads lecturers, including one who's here today, Fred Singer. But I learned quite a lot that I didn't know as well, so I encourage you all to read the book. Now, just a couple of housekeeping details. I forgot to thank my colleague Julie Walsh for arranging this briefing today. And I also want to say, if you have to leave early, be sure to pick up a book on your way out. If you can stay until after we're finished, then Larry Solomon has agreed to stick around and sign your book if you'd like him to sign it. So, now, questions. We have a microphone, and please use it. Thank you.
Mr. Solomon, I read your book, and it's a wonderful book. My name is Marlo Lewis. I'm also with CEI. And as Myron said, there are many things in the book that were completely new to me, as they were to him. One of the most remarkable parts of the book, I thought, was the discussion of carbon dioxide, which I had assumed was totally settled, that A, carbon dioxide does accumulate in the atmosphere for 50 to 200 years, and that's why we have to be worried about it. And secondly, that we know for a fact that carbon dioxide levels today are higher than they've ever been in the last 650,000 years. And yet you presented...
Marshall.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, thanks. And yet you reviewed the research of some scientists who have challenged these very core premises of the whole IPCC consensus. I'm wondering if you have received any further inquiries from scientists or letters from scientists about this particular part of your book, which I think, as far as raising questions about the consensus, is the most radical that I have seen from any of the so-called skeptics.
No, actually, none of the. I'm in touch with quite a few of the scientists on an ongoing basis. None of them have raised that particular issue. It doesn't seem to be controversial with them.
You said you were there in Rio in '92. What was your feelings then, and how did that change over time to come to be a skeptic?
I personally wasn't there. My people from my organization were there.